The Gates Foundation has just given KEMRI about $4 million, which is roughly 516 million Kenya shillings, to launch what is being called a flagship program in women's health. It's officially titled the Leadership and Excellence in African Women Health Program, or simply LEA-WH. According to both the media statements and KEMRI's own press release, this 3-year project, starting in 2026, will train young African scientists, fund research, support startups, and produce as many as 10 medical products and 5 to 10 patents by the year 2033. It will also create an alumni network. This is a policy ecosystem, and host an annual Science X Africa Summit, working closely with the US National Academy of Medicine. Sounds impressive, right? I mean, Africa training its own scientists, Africa-led innovations, solution designed for women's health, the kind of headline or news we all want to celebrate. But when you read beyond the press release, when you actually go through the statements line by line, you realize that a lot has been left out. And what is missing is exactly what allows us to scrutinize this partnership, right? And I know, guys, we've not normalized scrutinizing these press statements. They come out and we are all clapping. Bill and Melinda Gates have actually given KEMRI a grant worth more than 500 million Kenya shillings, and we are celebrating because to us, this is a lot of money. And also it is designed to elevate Africans, to make sure that Africans are coming up with their own solutions, right? But before we talk about what does not make sense, let's take a look at this deal, so that someone doesn't say, Lynn, but you did not, this is what the deal say. No, I'm going to walk you through this deal extensively, and then we will look at what doesn't make sense, right? Now, the funding is for 3 years, worth about 172 million per year. It aims to empower scientists, as we said, researchers and innovators to develop solutions for women's health conditions that remain understudied and underfunded across Africa. By 2033, they expect to see up to 10 medical products ready for market testing. And then up to 10 startups that are going to be launched, and 5 to 10 patent applications that are going to be filed. And at least half of the participating scholars receiving research grants of their own. And it also promises a replication model that can be used in other African countries, and a policy ecosystem to influence how innovation is governed on the continent. So in short, this grant is meant to produce a decade's worth of innovation, patents, and startups across Africa, all under the banner of African leadership. Now, that is the official story. That is everything that you are going to find out there. That is actually it. But here is where we must pause, because the more you study these PR articles, the more the gaps become clear. And those gaps raise very important questions. And these questions are not me being anti-science or anti-partnership. They are simply about accountability, ownership, and sovereignty. And I love that in this platform, we are paying key attention to who owns what. This whole announcement has no clarity on who owns what. Patents are power, guys. They decide who controls medicine, who sets the price, and who profits. But this announcement never explains who will hold the intellectual property. It doesn't say whether these discoveries that are going to be made using Kenyan infrastructure, Kenyan scientists, and African data, who they are going to be owned by. Are they going to belong to the Africa institution, in this case KEMRI, or are they going to belong to the Gates Foundation, right? Without published IP clauses, and these are the things we need to start asking in these PR articles. Can we actually see the published IP clauses? Let us understand who owns what in this whole grant. Because at the end of the day, we will celebrate here a grant of 500 plus million, but what it leaves with is actually more expensive and more powerful than the money these guys are going to Give us, because at the end of the day, if we are having things that are being done through African-led innovation, as they are saying, but then they go away with the patents, so they take the power from the people, this is actually Africa labor for foreign patents. At the end of the day, you are working for people, but they live with the patents. And patents in this case, this is where the power is. Also, let us remember, when women participate in research, there are samples. We are talking about blood, tissue, genetic material. All this becomes part of global databases. Those materials have value. They can be reused for other studies or even commercial biotechnology. If there are no binding clauses, keeping specimens within local custody, those samples can leave the continent without trace, right? They will just be put in a fridge somewhere and then, done. They are exported, and once they enter foreign jurisdictions, Africans will lose both control and benefit. And then there is the question of access. Even if new products are developed, will they be manufactured in Africa and priced for African women? Or will they be patented abroad, produced abroad, and then sold back to African markets at unaffordable prices? There is no mention of compulsory licensing, open science commitments, or affordability clauses. Nothing. I don't know why this was not released if it's there, but I would love for us to start seeing these PR articles come with all these clauses, so we also get a say and decide, is this grant for us or against us, right? Then when you go back to this program, it claims to be African-led. Have you seen that? African-led. Yet, it lists the US National Academy of Medicine as an implementation partner. We know that's a respected body, but why is a US institution steering an African leadership program when the African Academy of Sciences sits right here in Nairobi? Say, thought this thing was African. Why can't we do it African 360? If this whole thing was truly African, those partnerships would start at home. Let us actually start those partnerships right here at home. Don't take us again back to the US, right? And we've also not seen the governance structure. No names of board members, no explanation of who makes final decisions, and no indication that local oversight bodies such as NACOSTI or Parliament have reviewed the grant. Unless you guys have seen that. And you remember when we were going through the board of the Global Center on Adaptation, how shocked we were that this whole thing is coming here in Kenya or in Africa. It has African interests, but their board does not speak the same language, right? Now, back to this grant by the Gates Foundation. The project runs for 3 years, but the impact window extends to 2033. If a project starts at 2026 and then it takes 3 years, do the maths. That is a red flag, because it means the program can claim long-term outcomes it won't actually fund. In development circles, that is called impact laundering, taking credit for results that others will later have to finance. And the money and the math here is not even making sense as well. $4 million across 3 years cannot realistically deliver 10 new medical products, 10 startups, and multiple patent filings that will stretch all the way to 2033. I know the money is good, but guys, we all know research costs a lot. Even a single clinical trial can cost millions. So what is really being built here, we might assume, might not be the products. It is a framework of influence where local institutions run donor-branded programs that keep global networks in control. That is what we are going to assume here. And also, there is no mention of independent audit, public reporting, or open data. No commitment to publish the grant agreement or IP policy. And without those, this program is effectively invisible to public oversight. Why have we normalized behaving this way? Why have we normalized publishing these things not publishing these things to the public? Right? Why are we normalizing these things? where the public cannot just go in, search something and scrutinize and see, okay, this makes sense. IP, this is us, we own the patent, this data here, this is the board, this is, why are we normalizing not publishing that? Like we have to be on Twitter with you guys every other time to ask you these questions. Please use the same energy. When you are releasing these PR articles, please use the same energy to release everything to the public, so that we are not just celebrating a grant, but we know the ownership and the power behind this grant, right? Because we are going to celebrate these things just because now they operate here, you know. But at the end of the day, we do not have ownership to any of this. And there's a reason why these questions matter. There's a reason why we have to come here and ask the most basic and what might be termed as useless questions. And these are questions I know people did not ask before. On intellectual property, who owns what? Who owns the data? At the end of the day, who will own the samples? These are questions people did not ask before, but we are asking them here. Because women's health in Africa, I know it needs investment, but investment should never mean surrendering control. When foreign money funds local science, the public deserves clear answers. Who owns the outcomes? Who keeps the data? Right? Who decides the priorities and who benefits when the research turns into patents, products, and profits? Right? If those answers are not published, then we are definitely not witnessing a collaboration here. We are witnessing quiet capture of our own data and intellectual property. And this is not about rejecting partnerships or vilifying donors. I'm not the biggest fan of Gates, but this is not even about vilifying him. It's about insisting on transparency, fairness, and shared ownership. If this program truly believes in African leadership, it should start by leading in openness. Publish the grant agreement. Publish the intellectual property policy. Publish the data governance framework, right? Because accountability is not the enemy of innovation. It is its safeguard. At the end of the day, we are able to say, because this is an open grant, this is where we are. And this is where the power is. And the power is with Africans. Otherwise, these whole PR articles and paid tweets here and there are not going to help this situation. Africa has the talent, we have the institutions and the will to shape our own scientific future. What we need is for partnerships to operate under the same principle that every scientist understands. Nothing hidden and everything is peer-reviewed, right? And until that happens, we must keep asking the uncomfortable question. Not to undermine progress, but to make sure progress remains ours. And if someone asks me, Lynn, what is the way forward? And I love that we are asking that in the comment section. So what do we do? What are the solutions? Solution number one, even in these Gates grants, no matter how much billions he gives Africa, these are my proposed solutions moving forward. Intellectual property ownership. Please list exactly who holds any patents or licenses arising from the work. And then we also have to insist on data governance policy. State where information is stored, who can access it, and under which jurisdiction. And then also show who sits on the board, who has voting rights, and how conflicts of interest are managed. I'm still waiting for the Global Center on Adaptation to tell me how does their board relate to also how they actually impact the communities, right? Then we need to separate funds spent locally from those channeled to international collaborators. Please also commit to affordable pricing and local manufacturing if products succeed. At the end of the day, what is the essence of owning a patent and then having these things produced there? And then we also they have to be brought here. I think the idea was to help the women, and then you are selling these drugs to women at a price they cannot even afford. And guys, these are not radical demands. Let us normalize demanding for the bare minimum. This is the bare minimum. These are basic safeguards for publicly funded research. And then African governments on their part must invest steadily in science so that partnerships complement rather than substitute national responsibility. I would love to see how much money did our government allocate to research? How much? Have they done so? I don't know if they've done anything like that, or they are just busy granting immunities. Like, I would love to know, how much money did even Kenya alone commit to KEMRI? Huh? And it's not hard to see why this news of Gates funding KEMRI has been received with mixed feelings. Kenyans and Africans in general have learned to listen carefully whenever big international organizations announce partnerships with our local institutions. People don't automatically now just celebrate anymore. No, people are asking questions. Who really benefits? Who makes the decisions? What are we giving away in return? Is this free? Or what are the strings attached here? And you know, this whole asking questions and not just wanting to celebrate and being, you know, just you being curious, this did not just come from nowhere. Over the years, we've seen some global foundations, yes, that have done incredible work. They are funding vaccines, helping to fight diseases like malaria and polio, and supporting scientific research. We've seen that. But then, the same organizations, I won't mention names, they've also been accused of using their money to quietly influence government priorities, control data, or shape policies in ways that don't always serve African interests. We've seen that. And the Gates Foundation sits right in the middle of that debate. It has money and global influence bigger than some African governments, that is true. So when it steps into areas like agriculture, education, climate, or now women's health, it naturally raises questions. Not because people hate progress, but because we've seen how easy it is for partnerships to turn into dependence and for support to become control. We've seen that. So don't be shy asking these questions. No one is going to sue you for asking questions. Let us normalize asking these basic questions. And the concern here, even in the country, is not just about this new grant. It is also about the pattern, you know, repeated deals that are signed behind closed doors, important agreements that never reach the public, and also a lack of clarity on who owns the results. And all people want is transparency. If a program is meant to help Kenyans or Africans, then Africans have the right to see the terms, how the money will be used, who controls the data, and how the outcomes will be shared. It's not a favor. We didn't come crying, you give us a grant. No. Let us advocate for transparency, especially on who owns the data, who owns the outcome. And that is why these announcements are now being met with a grain of salt. Some people just think, you know, we just hate this guy, or we don't like these people. No. We are not just saying, now we just came out of nowhere. It's because at the back of our mind, 1 + 1 does not make sense. It doesn't make sense for you to publish a whole PR article and not take us deeper to what this grant entails. It doesn't make sense. This is not distrust for the sake of it. It is the awareness that without openness, even good intentions can create new forms of dependency. It is just that. And I am asking everyone that gets to watch this, before we celebrate this grant and all the other grants that we are going to get from different organizations or different philanthropists, let's ask for the fine details. Let's ask for the documents. Dear KEMRI, you would actually do us a favor if you would publish these things. If you would actually release these documents to the public so that people know, by the way, guys, don't worry. Even when we take your samples, they are going to remain here. Don't worry about the intellectual property. Don't worry about who owns what, the outcome. Please remember that even when these patents, whatever the outcome, we have you in mind. And the way we have you in mind is making sure that everything remains here in African soils. That is actually the only way this makes sense. I know it is in us to celebrate grants and see 516 million as a lot of money. Someone would even say, oh, Lynn, but where is your government to give us such money? No, I don't even care whether they gave 3 billion. I wouldn't even care whether they gave $10 billion. All I care about is the outcome. Because Africans need to insist on the outcome. They need to insist on the end result. Please, give us your grants, but let everything remain here. Ama, that is too much for us to ask, guys. Me, I don't want people taking my samples and then I find them in somewhere in Los Angeles, ama wherever, doing different things. No, let everything that is us remain here from the beginning to the end. Or at the end of the day, we are just going to celebrate grants without thinking about the end results. That is not how we need to move now. Let us move with documents in mind. Release all these things. KEMRI, don't just release a PR article that says how you've received grant and this grant is geared towards, you know, women and solutions and whatever. No, give us the fine details. Let us decide if we want to celebrate this or not, but we can only do that if we have all these details with us, right? So let me know what your thoughts are on the comment section. I don't want to repeat your words. I saw the conversation on X. Majority of you are not even impressed about this grant, but let people know we are not fighting at someone gave us the money. We are fighting because we do not know what the outcome of this is. And it's our right to question. And if you want to keep suing people because they want to ask questions, go and sue. You get it? Me, I won't advocate living in a country where a PR article is released, but I can't question. I will question everything. Everything. Because at the end of the day, our children will want to go through the data. 10 years or 15 years to come, we will talk about the outcome of this grant. And if anything goes wrong, we need to be able to go back and trace a particular document and say, but see, I thought the outcome was going to be, the results were going to remain here. Why are they somewhere else? Now that is sovereignty. That is us owning our story. Izi zingine, I don't know. Is it zingine where people are being threatened or you'll be cancelled if you ask questions? I don't know what that nonsense is. Me, all I know is I see a PR article, I see 516 million Kenya shillings or $4 million. I know I'm not going to celebrate this because what did not come with the article are the things that I need for myself to be enlightened. So, KEMRI, publish everything. And then let us decide whether we want to celebrate this or not. That's it for now. Thank you for tuning in and welcome to all our new members on the platform. Guys, we are at 1.41 million subscribers. The rest is noise. I appreciate you. You are incredible. I appreciate you. So continue subscribing, continue learning and relearning. The rest is noise. Sawa sawa. Please emancipate yourself from mental slavery. Are we together? Emancipate yourself. Let people cancel whoever they need to cancel. We remain 10 of us. We will still emancipate ourselves from this mental slavery. So I appreciate all the new subscribers. I appreciate everyone that is contributing towards independent journalism. I appreciate everyone commenting and sharing our work. I really do appreciate it. That is not something I take for granted. So let me know in the comment section what your views or thoughts are about this whole Gates grant towards KEMRI, and also what are other things that I might have left out that we need to keep watch of. If KEMRI publishes these details, I'll definitely come back and let you know, guys, this is who owns what and this is who sits where, and these are the people who are making the decisions. Until then, it's just a grant, nothing else. Bye.